Welcome to Fayetteville Connects, the podcast that brings you closer to the people, places, events, and resources that make our community vibrant and thriving. Whether you're a longtime resident or new to the area, we're here to help you stay informed and connected. I'm your host, Anne Marie Ziegler, and each week we will dive into conversations with local leaders, explore exciting happenings, and share valuable insights to enhance your life in Fayetteville. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Now, let's get started. Our guest today is Faith Boehmer, and she's just got a lot of information to share with us. She graduated from Garner Webb University in 1987 and has worked as a social worker in Cumberland County for years in various roles. She joined the Child Advocacy Center in 2009, and she just celebrated her 15th anniversary. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Faith manages around 100 volunteers, conducts face-to-face interviews, background checks, and training. She also oversees mailing coordination for the CAC, including newsletters and invitations for fundraiser. She coordinates all prevention and awareness efforts and leads several workshops on child abuse, marriage, and parenting skills. Faith holds multiple certifications, including Connections Matter, Stewards of Children, Prevent Now, Resilience, The Biology of Stress, and the Science of Hope documentary, and she is also a certified trainer for Stewards of Children and the Monique Burr Foundation's Child and Teen Safety Matters programs. She coordinates the annual Pinwheel campaign, planning over 11,000 pinwheels, and oversees the 19 days of prevention activities in November. Faith serves on the SCORE committee and contributes to the first child abuse and neglect prevention plan in the entire state of North Carolina. She also received the 2019 Carlos and Terry Union Zabowski Humanitarian Award. Faith is married to Scott and has two daughters, Hannah and Morgan, and like she probably does not really have any spare time, but when she gets it, she enjoys crafts, reading, playing games, and spending free time with her family. Thank you so much for coming and being our guest today, Faith.
Well, thank you for having me.
Can you start off by telling us what the Child Advocacy Center is and its primary mission?
Absolutely. So the Child Advocacy Center is a 501c3 nonprofit here in the Cumberland County area, and we are a place where children that have been victims of child abuse. They have experienced either severe physical or sexual abuse, and they come to the center and are interviewed by a certified, trained forensic interviewer. And then they go through the process of talking with that person, getting resources in place for them, which can include therapy. We actually have one therapist on staff that can see some of our clients. And then they will continue to kind of do a case management with those families for as long as they let us in the picture, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And they will make sure that things are in place, like school supplies, food, sometimes housing, definitely the therapy, counseling piece is a part of that. So that's the piece of what we do. But our mission overall is that we want to collaborate with our community partners to respond to and to prevent child abuse. So that's what we're doing. We're responding to it when we receive those calls for doing the forensic interviews. But then on the other side of it, we're also wanting to bring awareness and education to our community about how to prevent child abuse. And that's my role. That's what I do at the CAC.
Okay.
So
what's your role at the CAC, and what is it a day-to-day responsibilities?
Okay. So my title is the Prevention and Volunteer Coordinator, and it really encompasses a whole lot of things, but I'm going to start with the volunteer piece. We have on average anywhere between 75 to 100 people that volunteer. And when I say volunteer, our volunteer staffing, I'll call it, is set up a little bit different than maybe some places. We don't have like a day-to-day where you can come and sit behind a desk and direct people here and there, or pass out, publications or whatever to clients. It's as needed basis. So when there's a need, then we send out a request and say we have a mailing coming up with, that's going to need folding, stuffing, sealing, and we're going to do that on such and such day. And so people will sign up. We may have community displays where volunteers will take those, take our CAC display out with a pull-up, stand-up pull-up, and then the table things to give out information. Based on what event they're going to, they may take things that are connected to internet safety, particularly in June. They may take stuff connected to human trafficking, and that would be particularly in January. So it just kind of varies on what we do and when we send out the information. But there's a lot of different things volunteers can do. And again, it's as an as-needed basis. Sometimes I need materials put together for training, or we need things put together, organized, or collected for a fundraiser that's coming up. So it just all depends on what the need is and what that is entailing. So that's the the volunteer piece, And the prevention side is where I try to get out in the community, just like I'm doing now, speaking to radio stations, doing podcasts, also getting out and talking to agencies about, let's train your staff, let's train your church, let's train your civic club. Let's get people to know how to react, how to respond to the signs of child abuse, so that they know. Because in North Carolina, all of us are mandated reporters. So the more we understand and become comfortable in a way that we feel okay at making a report is what we want to help our community to do. And so that's kind of a big picture of what I do on a day-to-day.
So with all of the things that you do, how do you feel like it impacts the community?
Well, I think when it comes to the volunteers, they get impacted because they begin to see and understand by folding a newsletter and putting tabs on it. They may read about it. They may get in conversations. They begin to understand, our job is full. We have a lot of things that we do, a lot of pieces, and we're a small staff. And so we're trying to get a lot of work done with a few people. And so I think they begin to join in and want to help. When you get out and do prevention, you begin to hear people say, I sure wish somebody did this when I was young, because I'm a survivor, or I was impacted, or I wish this could get out to more child care centers, or I wish more children knew how to talk about when they don't feel comfortable by going out and doing body safety classes. So when you get out there and you bring that education, it's almost a sense of welcoming that you have brought this to us, and now we can do something with it. Whether it's to a child to help them know how to connect to a trusted adult, to a person that's a safe adult, whether it's to adults helping them know how to protect children, because it is our responsibility as adults to protect the children, to be their voice. And while I say that, be their voice is actually our theme for the CAC. And so we put that on our publications, and we want to be the voice of children, because we want children to grow up in loving and nurturing and stable environments, so that they can be healthy adults as they reach that milestone.
And what are some of the other organizations or businesses that you collaborate with during the year?
So we have an MDT, which is multidisciplinary team, and so that group connected with people like law enforcement, Cumberland County Sheriff's Office, Fayetteville PD, Spring Lake, Hope Mills PD. So all of those agencies, along with DSS, Health Department, the schools, we collaborate with them. Every other Friday we do case review, and so that's where our staff that work with the families, the victim advocates, as well as the forensic interviewers, and then those particular people, detectives or social workers or counselors in the school or a social worker in the school, they come together to make sure that the resources are in place, to make sure that nothing is missing, that there's not something not being taken care of by whichever agency needs to make sure those things are in place.
Okay. Well, you talked about January. You talked about November. You've talked about April. And then you have your fundraiser, your large fundraiser in October. I know you have the lip sync event, the planning of the pinwheels, the cybersecurity. So you're getting a lot of information out there, and it sounds like you pretty much have stuff extra going on every single month. So the Pinwheel campaign is very significant each year, and you did 11,000 pinwheels.
So that's the highest we've had. I think this past year it was more, I don't have those numbers, but it was less than 9,000 that we did. But we have had close to 12,000 before in years. But we've, through the COVID experience, we lost a little bit of that, and so we're trying to kind of gain that momentum back with people. But yes, we do put out a lot of pinwheels, and that pinwheel represents child abuse prevention. And again, the fact that we want children to grow up in safe and nurturing environments. And that doesn't just only include in their homes, but it's also at their school, it's at their little league, it's in their the public libraries, the churches, their faith community, wherever they're at. We want all of those places to be safe environments for our children.
So how do you engage the community in events like the 19 Days of Prevention?
Okay, so 19 Days of Prevention is something that we do in November, those first 19 days, and we've kind of rebranded it and are calling it Harvest Awareness now. And so what we do with that, we do a couple of different pieces. And this year, we're doing our body safety classes. And so we reach out to child care centers, to Head Start, to the schools, and try to get into those pre-K and kindergarten levels and take a body safety class to them. That is something that came out of Child Safety Matters, Monique Burr Foundation out of Florida. And so we have an actual pre-K curriculum that was written for 4 and 5-year-olds to take into these classes to talk about body safety, to talk about the signs for them. Who is a trusted adult? What about these uncomfortable feelings that I have? What do I do with that? So we take that out into the schools. So that's one of our activities for November. Another one is we're going to do a prevention luncheon, and that's where we usually bring in either a person that's had lived experience of child abuse or human trafficking, or we bring in an expert that can talk in the field of child abuse and maltreatment. And so we, through that, then we reach out to the community by sending out invitations to our database. And so that may go to our heads of departments, it may go to our elected officials, it's going to go to social workers and numerous other people that are in that system. But we also put it out through social media and going out and doing public, announcements and stuff like this so that people get that awareness and learn about it. Some people, still don't know about the Child Advocacy Center or the CAC. And so the more we can get out there in a variety of ways to talk about what we do, then the more education we can bring to our community and awareness, because that's the key, is we want to get that awareness out there.
So what are some of your biggest challenges that you face in your mission to protect children?
Well, that's a big question. I think if I narrowed it down to my role, there is so much that can be done, could be done, and should be done to help bring this awareness in our community. We've had recent reports of some tragedies within our community that are pretty significant, and that puts us in the media. That puts us in places we don't want to be. We want to bring awareness. We want to bring education. And I'm one person.
Right.
And so being one person, I only have so many hours in a day, and I still have, a family and, need my self-care and all of that. So you've got to find that balance, which is not always easy to do, but you've got to find that. But that's probably a big challenge. It's just being able to get out there. For me, I see so many ways that we could do things, and I want to go and get it done.
Right.
And I have to swallow it back in
Yes.
to that. So, being able to maybe one day grow our prevention area at the CAC to where we could have more folks that could partner with me and get that message out even more so would be great. So that would be probably a big challenge. Another challenge I think would be just getting people to understand the value in getting their staff, getting their churches, getting whomever trained, because like the training that we do is called Stewards of Children, which is a 2.5-hour training, and so many times people are like, that's a long time to commit, and I understand that, but 2.5 hours out of 2 or 3 years of going through that training to protect a child, and if you can protect one child in that time, that's worth it.
Oh, definitely.
In my looking at it. So trying to help people understand that can sometimes be a challenge.
Yeah. Well, I certainly understand the frustration of, we need to do this and we need to do that, and we could do this, and then realizing you're just you, and that's, you can't do everything.
Right.
But I know that you see some really heartbreaking cases and deal with the children and things like that. And so it's not all statistics for you. You have the faces and the names and all of the statistics. So how do you handle the demands of your work emotionally?
So as you kind of gave some of my bio at the beginning, I have to find ways to just separate from things. And so I love to play games with people, but I've also got some that I do on my phone, and sometimes I just have to pull away at my desk and just play one just to calm myself down from whatever. And that doesn't mean there's been some, any kind of disagreement or something like that. It's just stressful, the workload and just the message you're trying to get out there. So doing things with people. I'm very much an extrovert in that I like to be with people. I like to connect and do things. So that's something I do a lot. I love crafting, and I love reading. And I've been setting challenges to read so many books in a year, and I've been surpassing that in the last couple of years. And so that's something that kind of gives me joy and gets me away from the day-to-day of my job. Yeah.
Well, what are your future goals for the CAC, besides having a whole team working under you, and your role within the organization?
I would love to see our CAC blossom more. I've been there 15 and a half years, and I have seen us go from a staff of 5 to a staff of 10. With one of those being contracted. And then we have contracting marketing actually too. So we've grown a lot. We've doubled in our forensic interviewers, in our victim advocates. We have doubled in our front desk and our program assistants. And so there's been a lot of growth, but there's still room for that. One of the pieces with that is space. And so we've got to, have some conversations about that as well. So there's a lot of dreams that I would like to see happen. I'd love for somebody to say, hey, let me come talk to you and help you have this campaign or donate the money for new space or whatever it could be. I would love to see that happen because I would love to see the prevention grow, and I'd love to see the therapy grow. Just to throw some numbers out there, last year in the fiscal year of 22-23, we had 811 referrals. This past fiscal year that ended June 30th, we had 772 referrals. All those don't come to the CAC, and some of that may be because they're young. So children under 3 don't come because they can't articulate and talk, and share perhaps what happened. And then some just don't follow through with it for whatever reason. And so, probably around 500 or more are usually come through. And so when you have that many kids that come through and they need to work through that with a therapist, you don't have but one person, and she can only do so many. And the same for prevention. And so seeing those areas grow would be a great thing to happen.
So how can our listeners support the CAC and contribute to its mission?
So the first thing I would say is go on our website and click the button that you want to get our newsletter so that you can begin to read about things, learn about things, and become educated. Through that, you can become a donor. You can actually donate as often as you want. You could set up but you can set up a payment if you wanted to do it monthly. You could do, once a year. You could come to our fundraisers. You could be, a business can be a sponsor. We have the Pinwheel Masquerade Ball coming up on October 12th, and so we are currently enlisting people to be sponsors for that. So we would love to have folks come along and do that. So being a sponsor. We also have a program called the Corporate Benefactor Program, where businesses can commit to be a benefactor for 1 year, and there's tiers, 3 levels, the highest being at $5,000, I believe. I may have quoted that wrong, but anyhow, so they could become a sponsor, and then they, as a corporate benefactor, you receive so many tickets to our major fundraisers, which is the Lip Sync in the spring and the Pinwheel Masquerade Ball in the fall, and they can get those tickets and come to those events. Totally up to them as to what they want to do. So those would be my advice to people is first, sign up and get the newsletter and be informed, and then find how you want to. You could even volunteer. You can volunteer on some of the committees that plan the fundraisers. You can volunteer on committees that plan events for our Human Trafficking Awareness Month, for Child Abuse Prevention Month in April, Internet Safety in June, and then for our Harvest Awareness in November. So there's a variety of ways that people can get involved.
Okay. And your website is what?
www.cacfayync.org.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, you recently received the Carlos and Terry Union Dabowski Humanitarian Award. Mm-hmm. What does this recognition mean to you and to the CAC?
Well, when I got the letter that I was being awarded this, I'd never heard of the award first. And the person that nominated me, I had met one time. And I was thrown back and thought, well, what in the world? Where did this come from? And I eventually reached out to her and talked to her. And what came out of that conversation that I recognized is that she watched me and she saw my the investment I was putting into our community, into our people, and that really spoke volumes to me and made me think, wow, I really need to be on my game. I really need to be paying attention because people are watching. And so when I received that, I was very humbled and very felt very supported and recognized in our community. And from the CAC perspective, I think it gave a value as to why this piece of our work is important, because we want to prevent abuse from continuing to happen to anyone that's experienced it, but we also want to stop it from happening before it ever does. And so when people see that and they recognize that, that speaks volumes about our work and what we're doing.
So how can the listeners get involved in if they suspect that a child is being abused or neglected?
So the first thing they can do is make a call to law enforcement, 911, or they can call to DSS, to the Child Protective Services, and make a report. As I said earlier, we're all mandated reporters, and so if we suspect something, if someone disclosed to us or we discovered something, we need to make that report. And those reports can be made anonymous if you choose to do that, which is fine. But we need to make those reports. And so, yes, they definitely need to do that. If they ever question, we have information on our website, again, cacfayync.org, where they can go and they can read through and see, is this something I need to report? But I'd also say I wouldn't hesitate. If you suspect anything at all, I would not hesitate, because we want to make sure that child is safe. That's the first priority. So I would make that report. They can always call the CAC and talk with someone. They can't make the report there because we don't have that jurisdiction. They would still need to go to those two entities to make that report. But yes, definitely they need to make that report if they feel any inkling that something is not right.
Okay. For our listeners, what is one thing you want them to take away from this show?
Prevention is possible. If we join together, we can provide what our tagline is in our logo, hope and healing. We want children to get the help they need. We want them to see that there is hope, and we want them to heal. And it can take some work, and it can be painful to walk through those experiences. But when you walk through it and you get to the other side, what a powerful experience that could be for those individuals.
Well, thank you so much, Faith. I'm going to highly recommend that people go to your website and go get a ticket for the Masquerade Ball and Auction, which is October 12th at Carolina Barn.
Tickets will be live soon. They're not live yet.
I have been almost every year, and so it's amazing. It's a wonderful event. It's very well coordinated, and it's good knowing that you're there having a good time and looking all fancy in your dress and masquerade ball, but you're also helping children at the same time and being able to help the CAC as well. So thank you so much for coming and seeing us and being with us. And I hope that you'll come back, because it sounds like you've got all kinds of events, and we want to help to get the word out there about the work that you're doing and to make your dream of a larger space, a larger staff, and being able to reach everyone that needs to be reached. So,
all right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, and I look forward to coming back.
All right. Thank you, Faith.
Thank you.
So, I want to thank you for tuning in this week's episode of Fayetteville Connects. We hoped you enjoyed the conversation and found it insightful. Stay connected with us by subscribing to our podcast and following us on YouTube and all of our social media platforms. They're all have the same handle of ArrayNC. And if you have any questions, suggestions, or topics you would like for us to cover, feel free to reach out to us. Until next time, stay connected and keep exploring all that Fayetteville has to offer. Goodbye.